Like that. I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Jules Sains. That is my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That is my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. That is my buddy Patrick McCray. That is my buddy Alan Gallant. And we are here to review the Blues Brothers from 1980. My God. So a musical. Yes, a really great movie musical. So Patrick suggested this. So Patrick first. When did you first watch the Blues Brothers, Patrick?
The opening weekend, 1980, Showcase Cinemas, theater number 4, 1,000-seater with Cinerama screen. It was a hell of a way to see it.
Cool. Very cool.
Butch, what about you?
Chopped up on broadcast TV a few years later.
Nice. Gordon?
I saw it 1980. I don't think it was opening week. I think it might have been that opening Saturday, Ford City Cinema.
Cool.
And this movie was a dream come true.
Cool. Alan?
I was already really hot and horny for the Blues Brothers. I purchased the album back in 78, early 79 when it came out, and had seen them on SNL. So this is one of those rank and file movies where I actually went to the movie theater and saw it probably within the first week or so.
I read that the only time Carrie Fisher appeared on SNL was when the Blues Brothers were on there. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. And then they did the Obi-Wan Kenobi musical routine, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did the Star Wars takeoff, which she was good-natured enough to do.
Oh, gosh.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
So John Belushi is here as Jake Blues. Dan Aykroyd is here as Elwood J. Blues. Jake's blood brother, also former Blues center. A lot of who's who: James Brown, Cave Calloway, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin. A lot of people, a lot of musicians. Which you guys pointed out. We were talking that a lot of the artists had a resurgence after this. I do remember as a kid Ray Charles singing, I think, the Pepsi commercial when I was a kid. So,
oh yeah.
So, you got the right one, baby.
Yeah. Gordon, you have a story with this.
I have a few stories about this because I was actually, I was a kid in Catholic school. So I remember I think it was 78 or 79, because Jane Byrne had just been elected mayor. And one of, I think, her first actions was to reopen the city and encourage filmmakers to come in, because they filmed because I remember seeing the announcements about filming the Blues Brothers and The Hunter with Steve McQueen, but that's a story for another discussion. And so I remember seeing that, and kind of the build up to the story. I remember seeing on the news how the scene where they're crashing through the mall.
Yeah,
the mall had been closed for like I think a year and a half, and they outlaid it just so that they could crash through it. Let's see. I remember as they're going through towards the end, you know how they're heading through Daly Plaza. First, my dad worked there because he was part of the state's attorney's office, but they actually had to. Things were getting contentious because they had to do that scene where they crash through the window like 54 takes. And
I can imagine that would get contentious after about 3 takes. Holy God.
But okay, you remember the scene towards the end where the Bluesmobile's speeding past that building and the red car with the Nazis is following it?
Mm-hmm.
That's 901 West Jackson, where my mom worked at the time. And Mom was heading into work, and she's being guided through because they're doing a set, and she's seeing how, I think it's one of the production assistants is talking to a dude who left his expensive sports car parked in front of it. And he's doing I can park here. You can't tell me what to do. Sir, could you please move your car? We're filming. We really appreciate it. I'm not going to worry about it. And the production assistant said, "Okay, don't worry. Just want to let you know that if a car hit if your car's any damage, we're not responsible for it at all. We need you to move your car, otherwise it's going to get damaged. But hey, it's like and the guy's like hesitating, and actually someone comes up with a form and says, okay, here, sign this, in which you agree that we will not be responsible for any damage because you chose to leave your car here. He chose to park elsewhere.
Yeah, that'll usually do it. Yeah. Yeah, that must have been a fun time to be around. Chicago for sure.
Cool.
They did start filming some pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, and since I was going to Catholic school, I could understand, like, nuns really were that vicious back then.
Oh yeah, her whole yeah.
Nuns are evil.
My friends who went to Catholic school have similar stories about nuns are evil. Yeah, absolutely. Because most of them are our age, and that's when things were still pretty corporal punishment oriented, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you guys. Because I don't know how old you guys are when you saw this movie, but how big of a deal was this movie for each and every one of you? What made you a fan of this movie? Was it the music first? Was it watching the guys on SNL? What was it specifically?
For me, it was I bought the album like a year and a half before the movie came out, so I was already prepped and ready to go. The album, for those of you who don't know, it's called Briefcase Full of Blues. Came out late '78, I think. I was just out of high school. I was just in community college, I think, and it was like one of the coolest things you could have at that time. Of course, they were vinyl LPs back then. But it was all done at the Hollywood Bowl. They were live cuts for anybody that doesn't know, and the energy is fantastic in those. And that was around the same time that I was getting into blues. My brother had introduced me to a lot of Mississippi John Hurt and Muddy Waters and some of the other blues artists of the time. And also at that time, Tom Waits was kind of bluesy, jazzy, and I was big into him. So this fit in perfectly, basically, with my cult-like following of this kind of music.
Yeah. Butch?
All the above. By the time I saw it, I was aware of John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, and the Blues Brothers, and watching it, I was probably around 13 or so I'd put around 83. Had no idea who James Brown, Cab Calloway, or Aretha Franklin was, and this kind of opened up a whole new world of music for me, because here in East Tennessee there wasn't too many blues stations. In fact, there was zero. But actually, I remember watching it, and then few days, a week later, I heard a James Brown song. I was like, hey, wait a minute, that was that guy in that movie. I had no idea who these people were, and I figured Cab Calloway doing Minnie the Moocher obviously was some type of singer, but again, no idea. Yeah. And just the comedy, the whole ridiculousness of it, and I say that with love.
Yeah.
And the music, everything. I mean, it was a great opening, if you will, to various things, and an expansion of some stuff I already knew.
Patrick?
Epic disaster, epic villains, the Nazis, epic allies with God and the blues singers. What a big movie at a time when movies felt like they were getting smaller and smaller. And this was big, and it was before any bigness was achieved through, CGI and nonsense like that. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated the writ large audaciousness. I mean, this is a comic book of Jack Kirby where every page is just a single panel.
Yep. Yep. Splash panels all the way.
Did acid and did a comic book together.
That'd be great.
Gordon.
Oh, I think a lot of it. And I would have been the right age for this movie because I had seen the Blues Brothers on Saturday Night Live, and there was no secret. The secret, and part of the hype behind this was that John Belushi was from the suburbs, but he was a Chicago boy. It helped that not only were we able to witness this, but this was a huge injection of. I mean, it was a big deal because for years, the first Mayor Daley, after there's a show called M Squad with Lee Marvin, and I guess there are a couple of episodes that dealt with corrupt police officers, and Daley was like, no, we're going to discourage people filming here, and it didn't help. And we talked about this when we talked about Dr. Detroit, that there's a film here called Medium Cool during the 1968 Democratic Convention with all the riots and the violence, and I mean literally in the middle. So, and Daley did not come across as well. So, although there were some productions that were kind of like kept on the down low and not really encouraged. So this was when Byrne came in, she wanted to bring more money. The city was going through financial issues. I mean, we weren't as bad as New York at the time, but we were getting there. And so it was a huge influx of cash and talent and attention. And just reading some of the stories, like, you know how the production bought like a bunch of 2 or 3 year old decommissioned police cars that were marked Chicago police just so that you could crash them. And I think,
Right.
I'm not sure if I think it has it may not have this record, but it's like the world's record for most amount of demolished cars in a single movie.
It was at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was at the time.
103 cars break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, and there was a little bit of blowback, which is why, like in Dr. Detroit, all the cars were city police rather than Chicago police, because the Chicago police were like, we're not that dumb. I will say, as a Chicagoan, and I know cops. Some of my former high school classmates are cops. I'm not going to tell you how you should feel, but I'm not going to tell you how you should feel or what you should think about them. But yeah, they really are kind of that way. But I'm just going to leave that there.
Well, one of the things that they actually did to ameliorate, one of the cop cars in that chase was like a state police car or something. It wasn't even a Chicago police car. It was like, because the guys that were wearing the state police type hats, the Mountie hats, that ended up upside down, that was kind of different in terms of the Blues Brothers, I mean.
Right. Well, yeah, they bought all these cars and they painted them for different police departments.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
According to IMDb, a lot of them were bought from the California Highway Patrol.
So CHP too.
They had cop cars, cop suspenders. They really did.
Yeah. That to me is like second behind the John Carpenter buys a plane in Arizona so he can cut it up, smuggle it into St. Louis for Escape from New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Money is absolutely no object, folks. Can't find a plane in St. Louis, so we're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I did not watch this movie till late. I mean, till I was like 29. So, and a lot of the reason I watched it was because Dan Aykroyd. Because I mean, John Belushi again, he had died long before. You know,
He only died. It was only a couple years after this movie that he passed away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the dude died on my birthday, which I really resent.
Yeah.
I'm more familiar with, I think it's his brother, Jim Belushi.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the movie I liked of his was called Canine, where he partnered with a dog. So, but when I watch this movie, I watch it because I'm thinking, okay, it has Dan Aykroyd in it, and I liked his movies. So I watched it, I think, man, this movie's really, really good. It's like, all right.
Yeah, and Aykroyd was involved in writing I believe,
Yeah.
partial.
Yeah, apparently it was so big that it was
Yeah.
like 300 pages.
Yeah. I think we're going to take this out. And this. And this.
Part of it was turned into Blues Brothers 2000, of which we will not speak of anymore.
That's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's the Temu funded sequel to Blues Brothers.
Yeah, they who must not be named. Yeah.
My God. Blues Brothers 2000. Oh my God. It did do one good thing though. It did do one good thing, and it did make you want to watch the original. Right?
I'd already watched the original, so I can't tell you.
Most people, by the time, if you got to choose between Blues Brothers and Blues Brothers 2000, people are going to choose Blues Brothers. I mean, it's a given, Joel. You don't, they know to escape the crappy sequel.
It's the vintage. Yeah, it's the vintage.
Well, somebody who's younger and first heard of Blues Brothers 2000, and they're like, okay, like there's a movie prior to this. Okay, let's go watch that and see how it is.
You can't be faulted
fair
for
enough.
that. You can't be faulted for that.
Yeah, there you go. So, my God.
I have to admit, I have purposely never watched Blues Brothers 2000 out of reverence to Blues Brothers. I just refused. I mean, John Cain's it's not good enough replacement. John Goodman. I'm sorry, John Goodman is a decent replacement for Jim Blue, but it's just like no, there should never be a sequel to Casablanca. There is no sequel to Blues Brothers.
No, I agree with you. Once Belushi passed, that was out of the question for me anyway. Totally out of the question.
Yeah, there is that barbed wire movie with Pamela Anderson. Never mind. Anyway,
there is.
Yeah. Anyway, oh my God. But yeah, this movie is really, really good. You guys, you can tell it's filmed in Chicago. I do love what John Landis does here. Cinematography wise, this movie looks absolutely beautiful, even today. Like it's one of those movies that transcend time. What do you guys think about that?
It portrays a lot of Chicago like this vast industrial kind of city. Particularly the opening shot sort of establishes this, but it has a kind of a, for me, it has a weird nostalgic feel. It's a little bit dark and rainy in places. Chicago is that way sometimes, and it fits what they're doing. It fits the grittiness of the blues and all of that sort of thing. The only thing I would have loved to have seen them done is crash into the old Chess recording studio or something like that. But it's very. I mean, I've been to Chicago a couple of times, and it's pretty good in terms of what a film depiction of a city.
Yeah, I think at the time the old Chess building, I think it might have been empty. I don't think there's anything in there at the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's funny because now the old VJ. A couple of years ago, I went to a coffee place in what's known as South Loop near downtown. And there are these pictures of VJ records, these old, because one is the copy of the first Beatles record on VJ Records. It turns out that coffee shop is actually on the site where VJ Records was housed. So,
yeah, that was too darn bad. I mean, that was another one that went down because of mismanagement, unfortunately. I think one of the owners or heads of it had a gambling problem. But, I mean, they had the world in their hands at two different times. The Beatles, up for obvious reasons, for a brief time, but they also they produced a lot of great blues records too. Chess wasn't the only ones doing that, but great label. I've got several of their labels. They actually signed Hoyt Axton back in the mid '60s, and I have the album that he did on VJ Records. It's called Hoyt Axton Explodes. Take from that what you will.
So, guys, with this movie, with John Belushi, obviously, the Dan Aykroyd. Are they the best like dynamic duo of all time? Where do they rank to for you guys?
I mean, as far as a comedy duo, they were close and they were good at what they did, and I think they trusted each other an awful lot. So they're a pretty good duo, absolutely. In this movie, their reputation is kind of burnished by the fact that they've got all these Stax Volt musicians playing behind them.
Mm-hmm.
All the primary ones or most of the primary ones, and it's just it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this movie really, to me, shows you the strength of those two guys. Bouncing off of each other, good ideas, working on off of each other. Okay, he does this, I do that, and we just build off of it.
The scene in the restaurant, for instance, they just go absolutely bananas in that scene, but they're kind of riffing off of each other in terms of one's egging the other one on. So it's great stuff. It's really
somebody called them the they didn't call them the modern at the time 70s, I guess, version of Laurel and Hardy, but it was at the time it was the comedy duo, like you've having it fast.
Yeah, they when they were on SNL together, they were the primary people on SNL besides Chevy Chase, of course, who was also a writer as well. But they were, for my money, they were always the ones to go and watch. Chevy Chase had some reasonably good shtick and so on, and was a pretty decent writer. But if I'm going to spend money, it's going to be on them. So
this is probably the best Saturday Night Live skit moved into a movie. I guess Wayne's World is the only other one you could compare to it. In my opinion, it doesn't even compare.
It's a nice little comedy, but it's not. This is a much better movie.
You're leaving out It's Pat.
You're right.
It's Pat. And the Stuart Smalley movie. Dang, the Stuart Smalley movie.
Well, the Stuart Smalley movie, I will say that because it's a personal favorite of mine, but I think that and I've read interviews about that movie where it was not marketed correctly. I mean, it's not a funny haha comedy. It's a kind of a comedy of recognition. So it's one of those films that I'd never say you absolutely have to see it. It's one where but it is one where it's a little bit, it's a tough movie. It's one of those movies that I can really appreciate because I see what it's doing, but it's not something I would say, hey, watch this and expect to laugh.
Right. I mean, it's kind of
most of those Saturday Night Live movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You would not say watch this and expect to laugh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's more of a comedy of recognition than a comedy of haha. So
it's a commentary on the self-improvement movement, psychology, all of that sort of thing, positivity that was going on at the time.
Yeah, but it also deals with themes around family dysfunction, about learning that you cannot change others. You can only change yourself.
Right.
And your underwear.
Yes, and your underwear. Valuable advice all the way around. Also, don't forget Coneheads.
Never saw that, so.
No, I did. And
it's not horrible.
It's not horrible, but I went back to the SNL skits to kind of wash my eyes a little bit because it's a little different. One thing,
stop motion. There's really good stop motion. That's the sort of thing Dan Aykroyd would be a fan of, though.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd is. Well, I mean, Dan Aykroyd has an interesting history. His parents were both into paranormal activity and UFOs and all that stuff. So he comes by that honestly. He's which I think was one of the reasons they brought him back, and he was willing to come back and do the Ghostbusters movies because he has this whole scene where he's talking about all that sort of esoteric stuff.
Well, he in real life, Dan Aykroyd actually does do paranormal. He does
He
do
does.
paranormal
He's a
stuff.
he does paranormal research. He does
Yeah,
absolutely. He's honest about it,
yeah.
which I respect. I don't necessarily believe in everything he does, but I respect the fact that he comes by it honestly. Um, but he also you remember he had this Crystal Skull vodka that had supposedly strained through diamonds.
Uh,
Does he still own that?
What's that?
I think he still owns that. I think that's where most of his
Maybe
money
so.
is
It's
from.
probably still happening. Yeah, I would not
That
be
House of
surprised.
Blues.
Yeah, yeah, I would not be surprised if it's still happening. I mean, it's a
uh,
small company. It's sustainable, you know.
I tell
yeah,
you
well,
something that really surprised me is probably about a month ago I watched the Dragnet with him and Tom Hanks,
I love that movie.
and I love this late '60s, early '70s Dragnet. I grew up watching it. I still watch it sometimes in the morning. You know, I kind of laugh at it a couple of times, but anyway, I enjoy
Sure,
it.
sure.
And
If there's
it
one
feels that
thing
line,
if there's one thing Aykroyd can do is play the straight laced guy that
and
has quirks, you know. You
yeah,
know.
and watching this, and now Gordon can speak on this, but allegedly one of the things I read said that he did a spot on some type of Chicago accent, and as we know, Dan Aykroyd is Canadian,
Yes.
yeah.
but also I'm presuming I believe he grew up whatever Canadian city is opposite Chicago, you know, up that
Well,
way.
he spent a lot of time in Toronto. I know that,
Toronto.
so it's not that far
Thanks.
from Chicago. You
But
know,
it just I was surprised, you know, watching him do a spot on imitation / homage to Jack Webb, and then in this film, you know, he's doing
yeah.
this. And it's just,
Well, I'm wondering if was Dan Aykroyd in Second City?
Yeah.
He
Because
was,
would have.
but the Toronto.
Oh, the Toronto one. Okay, I was going to say, but he may have been exposed to Chicago ones.
Yeah, and I think he might have. I don't know. I think he might have spent time with the Chicago troupe at some point because I know that Second City has. I don't know if they. I think they started this in the 70s where they have the main troupe and they have what they call their ETC troupe, which is basically a second troupe. But they also had a touring group, so it would not be surprising. And plus, he also did National Lampoon with
That's
Belushi
right.
and Bill
did.
Murray, so he would have had exposure to a Chicago accent.
Yeah, sure. And he always had a good. He's always had a good ear for voices, anyway. You know.
But he was
Yeah.
connected. Okay, so here's the connection.
Okay.
Because there is a Rosetta Stone to all of this, and it's this thing that if you're going to write about comedy in that era, you could fill a whole book about this. This is legendary production of Godspell
Mm-hmm.
that everybody was in. Paul Schaefer was associated with it. You know, the
Gilda Radner was in
TV
that
guys.
too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the Saturday Night Live guys. I mean, it was this really weird. It was a Wold Newton kind of thing for comedy for the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd heard about that production of Godspell where there was
And
so
Aykroyd
many
was
of
in
those
it.
people in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and ironically, I saw the movie when I was in Catholic school when I'd say probably about maybe uh, a year after it came out, and it was I think it was on like a Christian channel because they kids listen. This is how things were done back then. You
Right.
wheeled in a big metal cart with a TV on top, and you plugged it in and you turned it on, and that's how I got.
Yeah.
That's how I got to that. Davy and Goliath, which I think is on Tubi.
Yes, I think it is. I think you're right.
And Insight, which is it was a religious anthology show put on by Paulist Productions,
Mhm.
and there's actually a YouTube channel where you can watch all those episodes. So if you ever asked, and I know Patrick, you stay up late at nights pondering this, and Patrick is up, he's pondering, I wonder if there's an episode of a TV show that features Bob Newhart playing God, and it features Jack Klugman in a secondary role. And there is. I think it's called the Redemption of Packy Rowe.
Interesting. A 70s production or an 80s production?
70s. I mean,
70s?
it actually Insight was like it started in the 60s, but it started first as kind of like Bud Kaiser, who's this tall, deep voice guy, basically lecturing. Then it turns into like, talking head type stuff. It's like, oh, I'm going to talk about of communism. I'm going to talk about this, but then it turned into scripted drama, and it was basically done, because the Paulist sect, there's
Their order,
their order believed in using kind of popular means to get the word out about Christ and etc. But Kaiser was like, hey, I live in Hollywood. We could put together a show on the cheap, do half hours. And because at the time you could, you didn't have infomercials. You had to dedicate a certain amount of time to, public service.
public service. Yeah.
So there's like about 30 years worth of stuff, and it's bizarre. It's
I wonder if he was inspired by Lamp Under My Feet, which was a fairly long-running dramatic
that might have been it.
storytelling too. That is a Dark Shadows connection, because the guy that directed and produced Lamp Under My Feet was Joel Crothers' father, and Joel Crothers actually appeared on it a couple of times as a kid, or as a teenager.
It might be because it would make sense. But back to the Blues Brothers, because that's more fun.
Let's segue into the church scene, which is a great sort of inspiring, because after that, it's like we're on a mission from God. Every time he talks to somebody, and it also gets it gets Jake into the spirit. That whole thing with.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna ask a question. Are they really on a mission from God? Because think about it. Nobody gets hurt except for the Nazis. Carrie Fisher, blowing things up. Nobody gets hurt.
Right.
The car stays together until they don't need it anymore.
And it falls apart. Right.
Yeah, they are.
There's some, dare we say, divine intervention. There's something going on there, and I think it starts with you get the sense that there's some of that. Obviously, the Penguin, she's the wrath of God, but then you get these other sources like James Brown, and the other preacher kind of proselytizing the dudes in the back, and doing that sort of thing, and Aretha Franklin just sort of correcting them, sending them on a better path, that sort of thing.
But what if Cab Calloway's character is God?
He is all in white.
Because he's he gives them good advice. Hey, you need to go to church. You need to do this. He shows up at various moments and is able to hold it together until whatever needs to happen happens. So I that is not my original thought. I'm not going to.
No, but it's an interesting thought, and it's a doable.
Brothers and gone to the Overlook.
It's doable. I mean, it's certainly doable to look at it that way. I think, not too hard, but
nothing in this movie should be looked at that hard.
Yes, exactly.
Just sit back and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
Gordon, what do you think?
I think it all fits. You've got the, plus, I mean, Jake is inspired. We it happens at a church. I think it's also the fact that they chose to accept responsibility and go to jail for what they, for everything else that happened. You've got, they were persecuted by various shades of law enforcement. I'm with that. I think they really were on a mission from God. I mean, let's face it. When you're 106 miles from Chicago, you got a half full tank of gas, have a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and you're wearing sunglasses. The only divine thing you can do is hit it.
Hit it. That's right.
Actually,
and their whole.
I was going to say, let's have we start this video out.
Yeah. Their whole mission is to save the Catholics, the diocese school anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that's
a
why
branch of the most impoverished religious institution on the
Oh,
planet.
yes.
If anybody
Terrible.
needs a
Right.
huge effort to
Yeah,
save the
worse
world
off than
in
the
a really
Baha'i.
ordinary sense, it's going to be the
Well,
Catholic Church
well,
is desperately going to need it.
to be
I'm
fair,
sure there was
to be
something local that it was tied to,
okay.
but
Yes.
To be fair,
to be fair, I
the
hate
orphanage
that
is
phrase.
located in Calumet City. Calumet
Uh-huh.
City is way far away from Chicago, and it's literally on the border of Illinois and Indiana. So it is a very impoverished. Now the church in
I just
Chicago, they're rich.
I gotta ask, how does that? I know all politics is local, but how does an institution? I mean this honestly.
Mhm.
How does an institution like the Catholic Church that is so wealthy that it has its own country? How does it let one of its representatives? Is it so corrupt, or what happens that these kids are so victimized, and
Right.
yet they're connected to this massive engine of child molestation that is
It's like any other corporation. It's a redistribution of money, and some people get left
horrible.
out.
It's
I know.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that Jake and Elwood are doing it, but
Mhm.
politically, there's always something that I wondered about was
Yeah.
how that happens.
Well, it's some dioceses will dry up. They will literally dry up. They'll stop getting money, and then other ones, because they're taking in money and they have a lot of patrons, will thrive. Like
Yeah.
in Orlando, we've got a couple of big cathedral schools and churches that do really well because there's a huge population for them, but they're also very well off, and you have to have bucks to go to the schools. You as a person sending their children to those schools, you have to have bucks to send them. They don't go there for free.
Yeah, it's right now the trend has been fewer people are actually attending Catholic services and are actually separating from the church because of the molestation,
And
because of all that. And you're also seeing the rise, unfortunately in Chicago it's starting to happen, of these like mega they're mega churches in all but name, and they this kind of they go into the poorer areas of the city and they preach this prosperity gospel.
Oh God, no!
Baptist Pentecostal type, churches.
These are people who need to gorge on a bag of dicks until they choke.
Sorry,
Yes,
Joel, some of them try to,
but I got to go there.
Apparently, there is a deleted scene that the Illinois Nazi are going to buy the building, and it ties it back into how they got it.
Oh,
you're going to turn it into a meeting hall, or Butch hall.
That would work. And speaking of the Nazis, about a year or two before this, there was actually a big deal, and there were actually TV movies made about it, where the American Nazi Party won a case where they could march through Skokie, which was highly Jewish. So this is a way to
talk about their case.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a way to raise their middle
finger.
finger.
It was associated that Illinois Nazi comment is specifically being about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was the film's way of saying, sit and spin MFer and raise a middle finger.
Yeah. It's true. And Henry Gibson still holds the Guinness Book of World Records as the smallest Nazi.
In more ways than one.
Rankin Bass special was called The Littlest Nazi.
I prefer Herbert Moon. Anyway,
I think he too.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but you guys talk about On a Mission from God. Have you seen Jesus Christ the Pro Wrestler? That's all I'll say.
Oh no! Tell me this is a WWE.
No. There's this guy on the Indies who literally wrestles as Jesus. I would send you guys the video. It's worth a watch.
You don't have to, Joel. Don't go out of way. I think we can all live without it.
I'll watch it.
Oh Lord!
I'll watch every frame.
And
Every
then this
year.
horror weighing in at 298 pounds, the Son of God.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about a church that basically advocates a form of symbolic cannibalism.
Yes, this is my
I
body.
thought it was literal. I thought transubstantiation makes everything
Uh,
leave.
According to some interpretations, that's correct. That there's a magic involved in it. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but have you ever read V for Vendetta?
I've never
I've
read
seen
it.
the movie.
I'm not sure if it's in the movie, but in the comic, there's a priest that V goes to, and he says, "Oh, you believe in transubstantiation, don't you?" Yes. Then if you say this is the body of Christ and I feed it to you, it's not going to poison you. It's going to, it's just going to, because it's the poison's going to come out. Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the movie, but it is in the comic.
Yeah, yeah.
But even still, Patrick, if transubstantiation is true, you're basically eating Jesus meat.
Jesus meat and
So
Jesus
it's only
blood.
half human.
What?
It's only half human flesh. The other half being Vulcan.
Now you're getting into the Gnostics Gospels, and that, I think, out of respect to Joel, I'm not going to go there because that's a whole other mess of stuff to talk about.
That's another podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. And plus, Jules holding his dog, and he'd have to put his dog down, make his way to Chicago, and he'd have to have words, and I'd rather not do that. He likes holding his puppy.
The monitor is very small here. It's on a phone, so I don't know what you're referring to as his dog, but I think you're speaking as it is in most broadcasts that we do.
It's actually in sight, so shield your eyes.
Yeah, see. But Patrick, I do think I do appreciate the fact that you went the extra mile and you cosplayed as Harry Carey, which I really appreciate.
If the moon was made out of ribs, would you eat it?
Would you eat the ribs?
Oh my gosh. What's
Moderator?
Ribs for her pleasure.
with this movie? Where does this movie rank in your Dan Aykroyd movie list?
1.
It's a weird list. In the best sense, it's no, my stepmother is an alien. I'll say that. In the best sense.
Yeah. I like this in a near tie with the first Ghostbusters movie.
It's an awfully good movie.
Yes, it is.
It is. The one thing that as good as this movie is, you can't accuse it of as being disciplined. I mean, it's about as disciplined as Casino Royale, the real one, the '67 one, and I love that movie too.
Yes.
But I'll say that I think that Ghostbusters kind of realizes the promise of this film. I mean, it's a great movie. It's not perfect, but it may be a perfect Blues Brothers movie.
Right. It is.
But Ghostbusters is so tight. It's really one of the best films of the '80s.
I think what helps is that this film is directed. What helps Ghostbusters that this film is directed by John Landis, who has never learned. I don't think restraint is in his vocabulary.
Oh no.
Okay, but like Ivan Reitman with Ghostbusters, it's a tight script with tight direction. The performances are tight.
Yes.
Like I for me, it's like Blues Brothers is number 1, but it's only because it's I grew up with it.
Right.
Ghostbusters, I think, is a really good film, but I think it's a good film for different reasons, if that makes sense.
One thing that also pushes Blues Brothers over the top for me is its spiritual significance in the canon of preserving the great American film musical. Because, as I mentioned before we started this recording, Xanadu came out the same year, and it was like Xanadu was killing the movie musical. It was, neon tubes and weirdness, and this movie because of the source material for the music, which is the blues for the most part, a little rock and roll, but mostly the blues, kind of elevates the movie musical again, and at least holds its place until Annie comes along a couple of years later and does really well and sort of stimulates interest in the movie musical again.
I agree with everything Alan just said, and I'm going to say this: I don't consider this movie a musical.
It's an interesting entry into it though, because everyone does burst in. I mean, it
I
is
do, but
it's a parallel universe kind of thing.
yeah,
It's a movie musical with an improvisational book that works. You know,
honestly, I think I'd seen this movie for like 10 years off and on, and then it hit me. Oh wait, this is a musical.
Yeah, well, it's the lack
It's
of
got
original
music, yeah.
songs
Yeah.
that it's that they're going into classic songs for the most part. I think, and that kind of divorces it, I think, from being what we think of as a musical, where people burst into original songs and further the plot
Right.
as a
Right.
result. In fact, a lot of the numbers are completely pointless. Not bad, but pointless. The point of the Aretha Franklin number is so that Aretha Franklin can perform,
Right.
this fantastic song.
So it's
And
got
yet
a
it does
thread
nothing
of
to help
connection.
her.
Right.
Right
It's got a
before
thread
it,
of
John
connection
Lee
because
Hooker
she's
doing
PO'd at
Boom
her
Boom
husband.
Boom.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I love that song, John Lee Hooker doing Boom Boom Boom. What
Yeah.
is the point of it? John Lee Hooker's in a movie doing Boom
It's-
Boom Boom. That's the
This
point
is
of it.
Yeah.
this is a movie that would later be that if it were made later would be called a jukebox musical.
That's correct. It would be
Yeah,
classified as a jukebox.
yeah.
What's some of you guys' favorite scenes?
I love the Carrie Fisher stuff.
Yeah, the first Carrie Fisher stuff in particular, because it's like, what the first time you ever see it. And then I like segueing into the whole scene in Jake's, or Elwood's rather, so-called apartment, which is like this
Yeah.
wide. It's just, and he says, as these trains keep you awake, he's like, nah, you just keep coming. But I like that whole scene, and that's a milieu of sort of hard scrabble, urban,
Well, it's an SRO basically.
yeah, and so I like that. But I agree with you, Patrick, that the Carrie's scenes are very cool, and she is definitely committed. I don't know if at that point she was fighting with one of her many boyfriends or what, but she was wild-eyed committed to it for the most part.
Yeah.
I kind of like the diner scene where Wood is ordering. I'll have some dry white toast. You want any jam or butter? No, dry white toast.
Yeah.
Jake, I'll have 4 fried chickens and a Coke. Do you want chicken legs, chicken wings? 4 fried chickens and a Coke. You want anything to drink with that? A Coke.
Yeah.
That to me is the button on that gag.
Yes.
But what about you?
I don't know. Would you know me?
The
I already
Butch,
said.
but
I love the mall scenes just because as a kid that was just the most ridiculous thing
Yes.
I had ever seen.
It was a Dawn of the Dead moment, though.
It was pretty Dawn
Yeah.
of the Dead for me. And for anybody that doesn't know, that's my favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
When they're at the end, when the Henry Gibson and his fellow Nazi are in the helicopter, and they let him go when they're falling, and one turns to Henry Gibson and goes, "I've always loved you." And
Yes.
it's kind of like you can in my head you can hear it. Well, this isn't the way to make my last few minutes.
If it had been made 2 years later, Henry Gibson would have looked at him and said, "I know,
I know. That's right.
I love you, Henry."
And I'm gonna tie back into something. Alan mentioned the earlier scenes. The travelogue of Chicago, if you will. One of my favorite things about older movies is to look in the background. Here's the thing, but look in the background. Like you might see gas for 25 cents, or you see a gas station or a restaurant that's no longer open, and it's just this quick window. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that, and One of my favorite movies to do that too is Assault on Precinct 13. When Bishop is driving and they got the camera set up over here in the car, and you just see the city, see Los Angeles drive by.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not really a scene, but that is one of my favorite things to do is to look at that. And it's like, I asked Patrick one time, I said, what movie encapsulates the 70s? If you wanted to introduce somebody to the 70s, what movie would you show? Do you remember what you answered?
No, what did I say?
Jaws.
Jaws. Yeah.
Yeah, I might say the first Star Wars or Saturday Night Fever. Saturday Night Fever is a good one. But also, you can go into the early 70s and you find things that are extremely of that era. And we've reviewed a couple of those movies, actually, over time.
Now, Butch, recently we found a weird Jaws Dr. Detroit connection. I'm totally serious.
Okay.
Written by the same man, Carl Gottlieb.
Really?
Yeah, who was a comedian and was on the Ken Berry Wow show. You can see him goofy because he's Mayor Vaughn's assistant with the mustache.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's Carl Gottlieb, writer of Jaws.
Yep.
Well, here's one for you. There is a slight Ghostbusters reference in Blues Brothers.
What is?
When both the brothers go into the phone booth, Dan Aykroyd says, "Who are you going to call?"
Oh, I thought about that. Yeah.
Obviously, that is not intentional. I'm not saying
No,
that.
it's
I know
prescient.
who you're gonna call.
It's prescient.
Yeah.
It prefigures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. My favorite, like one of my first two Dan Aykroyd movies I saw was one was Ghostbusters, and the other was My Girl with Jamie Lee Curtis, Macaulay Culkin. You've never
forget your age, Jewel. I forget your age. Yeah, they do all just sort of exist in this postmodern VHS whirlwind, which if I'd been born when you were born is how they would have been.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we forget he is Academy Award nominee for Best Supporting Actor for Driving Miss Daisy.
Yep.
Yeah.
He also plays a hired assassin in what is it? Gross Point Blank. Gross Point Blank. And he's this really happy-go-lucky killer, and they have this gunfight, and he's just like talking to him the whole time. It's wild.
Yeah, he also played Max Sennett in the 1992 film Chaplin.
Yeah,
I've totally forgotten about that. Because it's been a while since I've seen Chaplin. But
it was announced in a magazine, a comic book movie related magazine, after Batman '89 came out, that he wanted to do a serious version of Blackhawk, the DC character, the World War II aviator. I would have killed someone I don't like to have seen that film. I just, because sure, Dan Aykroyd's a funny guy and he does a lot of comedies. His serious films, I'm sure I'm going to phrase this wrong. I want to say comedy is easy, but if you can do comedy, you can do serious.
It's been typically true. It's been typically true.
When you get those rare performances with somebody that's known for comedy, like Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah. Also, Insomnia.
Ben Aykroyd is Blackheart.
He's chilling in Insomnia as well.
Yeah. Those are both good.
Yes.
I give this movie a 10. I'm sure you guys do too,
Yep.
right? We're not
I'll actually go beyond that, and it's the three funniest movies, in my opinion, of all time.
Cool.
Blues Brothers, Animal House, and Airplane. Honestly, after my mom died a few years ago, and after a few days, I was still pretty down and depressed. What I do, I went and put Airplane in. I'm not going to, I'm not going to act like the sun part, the clouds parted in the sun.
No, but it helps.
Okay. Yeah. So there's your three. Yeah. So I guess it's a 10 plus for me.
Very nice.
Cool.
Very nice. So is there anything you guys want to add about the movie before we go?
I wish, as I'm sure many people do, that John Belushi had not died, so that we could have had more of him. But what we had was pretty damn good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gordon was saying that John Belushi passed away on his birthday. I remember my parents, me and my sister were leaving our house, and we had the TV on, and the news was on, and they had just announced John Belushi had died, and I barely knew who he was.
Right.
So, Gordon, I remember your birthday that year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the, I mean, oddly, I don't know why that still sticks with me now, 40 to 50 years later, but.
It sticks with me because I was already in my 20s. I was 20 when this movie came out, and I was, I guess, 22 when Belushi died. So it was. We all thought we were all indestructible when we were that age, and so to have somebody go like that is like, it's a wake up call in some ways. It's just like, whoa.
There's growing up here in Western Pennsylvania, like there's things that in movies that you can see that aren't around anymore. In Sudden Death, you can see Civic Arena, which I've been inside. I had been inside Civic Arena twice. Small. It's very small. It was a very small hockey arena, but it was used for wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can see Three Rivers Stadium in certain movies. The stadium the Pirates and Steelers played in, and it's like I'd only been to Three Rivers one time for a Pirates game. That was it. And it's like that was huge. So
like in this film, it's the I believe it's the John Lee Hooker scene before they go into it happens near Halsted and Maxwell, and that used to be kind of a really, in high school, like I would take the bus, and it was like a lot of shops and vendors and food vendors. Like you could literally go and get you could literally smell the cooked onion as you're through. And that whole area now is, because it now has dormitories and it's gentrified because the UIC is right there. So there's like a couple of little, there's a Maxwell Street area, but it's not on Maxwell Street. And in this film, it's one of those where I think it does a really good job of capturing the city at a time when, there's not a lot there anymore, because obviously cities move on, but it's not to have a capture of not just this is the city. It's not a documentary, but it captures the vibe, and that's what I love about this movie.
Hey, two quick things, both real short. Number one, during the church scene with James Brown, they keep showing a singer up in the choir, a young African American lady. She would be later better known as Shaka Khan.
That's right. That's right.
And one theory I liked, Carrie Fisher's character is a mafia princess. That's how she has access to all those weapons.
Yes. Yeah. Why not? Either that, or she's got access to a military base, because some of that stuff looks seriously military.
Well, in talking about like the botched wedding, she said, somebody like Mad Dog Trujillo or somebody like that. So I just took that as like, okay, yeah, she knows people.
Yeah, she does. Absolutely, she does. She's not to be
maybe
trifled
Dad knows them
with. Just like the real Carrie, she is not to be trifled with.
Yeah, well, my dad worked with a lot of bars and construction. Just saying. Just
saying. Absolutely. The only thing he left out was trash removal, garbage removal, environmental.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something else that the mafia would be deeply involved in, because of unions. Yeah. It's a colorful time back then, the 70s and 80s.
Oh my God. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound will be in the description box. Link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website will be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel. Collins Ports After Dark will be in the description box. Go check it out. Is there anything you guys want to do tomorrow?
What about me, Joel? When do I get a link?
Whenever you create one, I will gladly.
I'm just messing with you, man.
Putting Butch's anonymous link
Yes.
in the
I'll
description.
send you my my YouTube wish. I mean my Amazon wish list.
There you go.
There you go. There you go. Oh my god. Oh my god. But yeah, you guys have a good night and take care.
Gentlemen,
Right on.
it's been a pleasure as usual.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.